finding that perfect EDF, the one that is super fast, it handles incredibly well, and it lands really easy. Those are hard things to come by with most EDF, especially an 80 millimeter. Gotta tell you, this one is special. Let's get into it. Welcome to the shop. I have the E-flite Habu XS 80 millimeter. This jet is highlighted as a level 2 or your next level EDF, which I find really hard to believe. A jet that'll go, EDF, that'll go 115 miles an hour or more, and it's pretty pricey. It isn't cheap. However, I'm going to look at this from a beginner's perspective of flyability and share with you some of my thoughts. We're going to go through the parts, assembly, which literally take minutes. They're going to fly the heck out of it. They're going to do a lot of slow flight and a ton of landings to really try to identify how hard is this plane to fly, and more importantly, land safely so you don't rip off landing gears. So stick around. We're going to get into it. There'll be links in the description below for this wonderful plane and any of the other videos or things I reference on setup. So stick around. This E-flite is like a lot of the newer E-flites that are out. It is super well designed. The parts are exceptionally good. I mean, ball joints on all connections. The foam has a coating on it. It's very shiny. A lot of very fine details. Assembly's a snap. It takes a couple screws and you're done. Wing assembly it's all together, ready to go. Ball joints are in. You just have to make some finer adjustments. Great light system, which I'll show off a little bit later. But all in all, the way this thing is designed is outstanding. I mean, they really put a lot of thought into that upgraded version of the normal Habu, but a Habu with something special, like the original Habu XS they had, which was I think a fiberglass body, a composite body. Anyway, this fuselage obviously is all foam. So up next, we're going to spend just a little bit of time assembling this, which is really all screw together. It goes really quick. And as I mentioned before, this is all a screw together configuration. Start off with the tail section and put the pieces together to screw it. Then the biggest thing is that big bundle of wires and shoving them in the right space, then screw it together. You're all set. The entire wing assembly just pops onto the fuselage. Then you got a handful of screws you got to screw in and you are done. The setup in the documentation is very good. And if you've set up any of these planes, there's several ways to do it. You could use the bind and fly file. You can upload, once you bind the receiver, it goes through a process where it uploads all the files to your transmitter. I set it up like I always do. Documentation's very good at taking you through that, and I've got many videos on how to set that up as well. Center of gravity, basically it gives you a rough order of magnitude of where it needs to be. On the throws, I went with basically kind of a middle range throw. I'll show what that all looks like here in the next slide. One other thing I didn't mention is that the rudder requires you to put on the control rod. 2 ball links, they snap in place. Spend a little extra time making sure all the control surfaces are perfectly centered properly and aligned properly. This plane will fly at 115 miles an hour. That's fast as I got it. Out of a steep dive and leveled off and just kept going. But the thing that I found really interesting, and others have pointed out as well, not interesting, amazing, is how slow this plane will fly. The Habu trainer, I can't remember what model number that is, but it is a great slow flying plane. This one with full flaps and just keeping an eye on that throttle so you don't fall out of the sky, man, this thing will just cruise around nice and easy. Now, it'll fly slow, which is great, but you do have to keep your wits about you. I didn't find it stalling or dropping a wing, and I did slow down quite a bit. It more mushes, and if you're not on the throttle quick enough, it'll drop a little bit of altitude, so stay on that. But just the capabilities of it from slow flying and just landing so softly you know, it's fun to kind of play with and hone those skills. Speaking of landings, yeah, so here are several landings I'm going to go over, and some of them I kind of narrate through, and others I'm just showing. I just want to show just how slow this thing flies or lands, and how that's probably most intimidating part of flying these EDFs. I mean, here you have a $500 EDF that'll go 115 miles an hour, but yet it'll just drop in and land, you know, with the nose up, slow on the mains, without bouncing, without fussing.
About a third throttle right here. Slowing her down, getting her in a good position, lifting up on that nose a little bit. Right there at the end, trying to get that nose up. I'm amazed at how slow this plane can fly. It will carry speed, but it will slow down quite a bit if you get that nose up right. Making my approach, coming in with a little modulating that throttle, getting the nose up. Right on the center line. Making my turn. I like nice wide turns. Less chance of disaster, I think. Slowing down about third throttle. Lifting up on the nose, flattening it out. There we go.
This Habu XS is, I think, the easiest landing EDF I've flown. I've flown quite a few, and it's for me, it was just super simple to come in, get a nice approach, but get that consistent descent and get that nose up as it just touches down perfectly.
Base to final, cutting back on throttle, got full flap, watching it, coming in. Just all day. I mean, you could just...
Once we get a good approach, bringing it in, as you've seen, I've done a bunch of landings, and they're all pretty consistent for the most part. But let's also talk about the cool aerobatics and stuff it'll do. Let's test a little vertical. So just right off takeoff, punch the throttle straight up. What does it do? I find that vertical performance more than adequate. Going inverted to test my CG, and I really liked it. I was right around 130, 135. A lot of these EDFs will accelerated stall snap when you turn them real sharp. As you saw, this one doesn't. I couldn't get it to do it, actually.
Let's do a stall test. Elevator, elevator, elevator.
It doesn't drop a wing, it just mushes, which is pretty impressive.
Full flap, stall test.
And as most of you know, these stall tests kind of give you an idea of how slow you can land it, and what is she going to do in landing? Is she going to drop a wing and cartwheel, or is she just going to mush and kind of maybe touch down a little hard? Now on this particular landing, I'm coming in a little too fast, and I didn't scrub off speed enough on my approach. So I'm trying to feather in that getting that nose up, and I start getting in that stall, and right there, it drops down a little bit. That's a stall. That's it. Pretty benign. By the way, if you follow my channel, you know that I do a lot of videos for the beginners or newer pilots. So if you're a new pilot and you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to the channel, I put out a ton of content for you. So love for you to subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it. Thanks. All right, I think I've shown most of the capabilities of this plane as far as slow speed landings, performance, and whatnot. So let's go back in the shop, summarize, and tell you what I really think, which I think you already know. Wound up the shop. So you saw how fantastic this plane flies. I was simply amazed at how well it flew slow, as well as the performance of doing the aerobatics, the speed, and all of that. You know, when we look at the parts and assembly, it went together in literally minutes. If I wasn't filming it, I think I probably could have had it all together in 5 minutes. Unpacking it took longer than actual assembly. So, you know, kind of funny there. The details on it are wonderful. I love the finish. I love what, you know, E-flite is doing on these new planes with lots of plastic parts, so you're not munging up your foam. Just a lot of detail goes into this plane. You know, it costs more than some of the other EDFs out there, but I think that is definitely worth all the details, all the lights, the way the retracts, the flap, just everything about this plane I was impressed with. Most importantly is how the heck did it fly? And as you saw, I could fly super slow. Now, you know, flying super slow doesn't mean it's easy. You do have to stay on that throttle. You can't do banking at super slow speeds or it's going to drop a lot of altitude. So you do have to manage that. It will fly slow and it won't stall, but if you crank on the aileron while you're flying slow, you know, and roll her over, it's going to drop some altitude because you're flying slow. So anyway, just something to think about. Speed was fantastic. You know, 115 miles as fast as I got it, but just also the way I could carve turns, I could jam on that elevator and it's not snapping on me. Landings, and I did a lot of them as you saw, just to point out that this is a pretty easy plane to fly. If you're at that skill level where you've mastered your basic plane, you've got a couple aerobatic planes, and now you want a really nice EDF, boy, this is a great plane for that. You saw how simple it would land. If you do everything right, get a good approach, modulate the throttle, get that nose up, it's going to come down great. So I'm a big fan of this plane. I think it should be in everybody's hangar when they reach a certain point. So we're going to get into another video where me and my buddy Mark are going to fly this thing on a buddy box because he is at that level. He's ready to go to this, but needs a little help. So we're going to show off some of that stuff. Look, if you like these videos, please, you know, hit that like button. I sincerely appreciate it. It helps out the channel. I'll have links in the description below for this plane, as well as any videos I referenced during the setup or flying and things like that. So appreciate it. Have a great day.